I'm obsessed with the magic system in this book. You're about to watch me read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to be updating you at the 200 page mark, halfway mark, and at the end with my final thoughts. So let's go back in time to right before I read this book. I'm so excited to read this book, even though I don't really know what it's about, but because it's Brandon Sanderson, everybody has recommended it to me now that I've read the original Mistborn trilogy and the Stormlight Archive series, plus the novellas with that, and everyone's like, you gotta read Warbreaker. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read Warbreaker, and I'm really excited about it. So from my understanding, Warbreaker is basically within the Cosmere of the Stormlight Archive and Mistborn, so I imagine there's gonna be references, because I do know that Szeth's sword from Stormlight Archive is in this book, so I know that part. And the way that I understand the story is that there's like this god emperor who kind of reminds me of like the Lord Ruler from the original Mistborn trilogy, and he is going to marry this like princess, and then like she goes over to that land, I guess it's kind of like some treaty or something, and she kind of learns more about this land and finds out that the marriage isn't like what she expected it to be, I think. And so I know that there's that part, and so I don't know where the sword guy comes in, but maybe he's like, he works at the palace, or maybe he's the kin. I don't know who he is, but yeah, that's pretty much all I know. So I really don't know too much, and I don't really understand what the story is about, but that's completely okay because I trust in Brandon Sanderson and I'm really hyped. So without further ado, let's read Warbreaker. So I'm a little bit more than 200 pages into Warbreaker, and here are my thoughts so far. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think this might be one of my favorite Brandon Sanderson books so far. Like, just everything about it. The universe in this that he's created, colors are really, really important. And so basically, more kind of like breaths that you have, the higher level of colors and like shades and stuff that you can see. And so that's important because there are like these priests, and there's like this kind of like kingdom area where colors are basically like worship, they're really important, and there's like this godkin, and then below him are a bunch of other gods who have been returned, which basically means that they were human before and then they died, but they chose to come back to either like finish something, or they saw something before they died that they needed to like come back and save and fix and do, but when they come back they don't have any memories of any of that, so they have to spend their time just trying to figure out like why did they come back. And they live a very like luxurious lifestyle in this kingdom, and I'm just always so amazed at these like systems and this magic system and stuff that Brandon Sanderson creates. I think that is just so cool, and I love everything about the colors. I love that some of our main characters from the kind of like rebel kingdom, their emotions show through their hair. So like if one of the characters is angry, her hair turns red. When she's really scared, it goes white. And like I just think that that's such a cool thing, and that she's able to like, if her hair is cut, she can forcibly choose to grow it however long she wants. I'm like, what? That's so fun. So basically 21 years ago, the Rebel Kingdom had a treaty with like the Colors Kingdom. And this is just like the simplest way to put it. And they're like, okay, we will give you our daughter, and that this daughter will marry your godkin. And so 21 years pass, and the kin decides that even though he has trained his first daughter and she's like ready to do it, he loves her too much to like essentially sacrifice her. So he ends up actually sending his youngest daughter, Siri, who I guess he just doesn't love as much, ouch, and he sends her instead. But she's very well known for being very rebellious and not following the usual kind of customs and stuff, and she's like really intrigued by the color world. She's a pretty good fit, but it's also like a big betrayal because like her dad literally just had to pick a favorite to protect and then send off his least favorite. Poor Siri. Off she goes to get married to the godkin, and there's a lot of stuff that she doesn't realize. She wasn't trained like her sister, and so she's really just like guessing and trying to figure out like what is going on. It's completely different, this world, and like the religion on this side is completely different, and people in her kingdom see them as like the pagans. And so there's a lot of like really complex political things happening, and Siri's just like caught in the middle of it. And she's like, what is going on? Like, how do I survive? Like, there's danger everywhere. And then her sister, her oldest sister, Vivenna, who was supposed to be picked to go marry the God King, ends up not getting picked, and she's like, I need to go save my sister, like this isn't right, like this was my duty, and she's not prepared for this. So she kind of goes out, completely going against everything that she's ever kind of done as being like the perfect model child. And she's trying to go and find and save her sister. And she ends up getting involved with these like two, well technically three, mercenaries who are absolutely hilarious. I love them so much. They have me cackling. They're just, Brandon Sanderson is so good at just like that really subtle, amazing, laugh out loud humor in such like a serious story, and I absolutely love it so much. And so she's with these guys, and she has a lot of like moral dilemmas going on, because like she's super against the way that this kingdom has done things, like not just politically but religiously. And so that's really interesting as well, to see like the differences in how it's just been laid out. And it does feel like two real places, two real kingdoms that are so different. And then the last character that we focus on is the man who wields Nightblood, which I know from Stormlight Archive turns out to be Szeth's sword later on. So this is like that sentient sword. So it's really cool to see like the origin story of that. And it's basically this man, and he kind of goes around and he's collecting breaths. But the thing with these breaths is that when you collect them, you're basically taking that person's life essence, but it makes you more powerful in the way that you can see more colors, and depending like, I guess like who you are, you can control things. So like you can use a breath, and you can make something alive that isn't usually alive. It could be a dead body. It could be like a blanket or something. You could create like a little straw doll and bring it to life. And I think that that's really, really neat. And then when you're done with it, you can just take the breath back. So I'm having such a good time with this book. I absolutely love it. I love all the characters too. There's no character where I'm like, oh, I gotta read this character's chapter. It's like, no. Every single one of them is so good. I love how different all the characters are. I really love Siri's character. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to tell you about Lightsong. So one of the other characters in this book is Lightsong, and he's basically a god. So somebody who died and then came back because they had like unfinished business. And so he's the god of like bravery and being bold and stuff. But he doesn't believe in his own religion. And so he is very just like, I guess he kind of puts it as he's very lazy. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't want to involve himself in stuff. And he doesn't believe anything of any of this. And he always talks about like, he's a very useless god. And so I think that he's interesting because he has like these visions or kind of like memories, or perhaps even stuff that's going to happen in the future of like this kingdom that he's in just burning. And he's like, I don't know what that's about. I don't really want to know what that's about, but like I kind of want to know what it's about, but I don't really want to know what it's about because I don't want to get involved. And he's finding himself unintentionally involved in things that he wants to stay out of, but he can't seem to. And so he's also a really interesting character. And I like that you get all these different kind of perspectives from someone who was trained to basically be a politician and how she's now working with mercenaries, or someone who wasn't trained and now she's basically the queen of the enemy and she's like married to the God King. Or you get the god who's within that same kind of like palace area, or you'll get kind of like the, I don't know like exactly like if he's a bad guy or not, but the man with Nightblood, you get his perspective too. So you get like all of these different characters from all of these different parts of this world and part of the story, and how it all just like works together and gives you good insights. I love it. And the scene with Siri jumping on the bed reminded me so much of that scene from Easy A. That was absolutely hilarious. I loved it so much. And Brandon Sanderson has already done it. He's already gotten the whoa, what feelings from me, and I'm not even like halfway through this book. So yeah, I'm having a good time. So I'm going to continue to read Warbreaker, and I will update you around the halfway mark. So I will see you then. So I'm now definitely more than halfway through Warbreaker, and Brandon Sanderson, he did it again. He got me with those twists and turns. I can honestly say that I can never see his twists, I can never see his plot twists coming, and when they do, it's like, whoa, like, it's so good. And the character development, especially with Vivenna, I think her character development has actually been the most surprising to me because of like who she was at the beginning of the book to who she's now becoming, and like the whole thing with the slums and everything. I'm like, what? Like, that was so well done. I love that. I think her character's gone through so much, and that her development as a character and just like learning who she is and what does she care about and what does she want to do is just so, it's just so amazing. And Siri and Seb. Okay, I always talk about how I want there to be more romance in Brandon Sanderson books, and Warbreaker is eating it. This is so good. Just thank you, Brandon Sanderson. You're really making my week here with this book. And then with the sword, oh, and the stuff that's happening with Lightsong right now, it's like, I think he's having really interesting character development, even though he's trying to fight against it, then he's like not, then he is, and he's just like so hilarious, and his like the way that he does things and like how it works, and like him with the Allmother, I thought that was an absolutely just hilarious scene, but he also was like so crafty and creative the whole entire time. And now that there's only like a little bit more than 100 pages left in this book, I'm really scared because the page I ended off was what Lightsong's previous dream was. And I'm like, if that happens, I will sob if that happens, because I love these characters. I'm so attached to them. I love the world. I love the magic system, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And I know that Brandon Sanderson loves to break my heart. So I'm like mentally preparing my already broken heart to break some more, but like, yeah, I don't know if I'm mentally ready for this. So I'm gonna continue to read Warbreaker, and I will update you when I finish the book with my final thoughts. So I will see you then, and we'll see if my heart's been broken. I honestly bet it will be. I finished Warbreaker, and my heart, yes, okay, there's so many things in this book where I screamed, which I do with all Brandon Sanderson books at this point. The climax of this book, literally, I could not put it down, and I don't know about you, but whenever I get these like mass paperback ones, the ink always bleeds. My entire hand was just ink. I read like 200 plus pages in one sitting. And I could not put it down. I needed to know what was gonna happen. I was so nervous, and just like, how is it going to end? Because this is a standalone, right? And like, the ending to me actually felt pretty bittersweet. Like, it felt like there were so many like unanswered questions, but in a way that felt intentional, if that makes sense. I truly, truly did not see the backstory of Lightsong come in. I did not expect what happened with that character arc at all. Like, okay, I expected the actions that he takes, but like, I did not expect the stuff that led up to that, if you know what I mean. I was like, wait, what? Really? I'm like, Brandon Sanderson, why do you hurt everybody? Please keep hurting everybody. I love you so much for this. And for me, I really, really loved just the character arcs of Siri and Vivenna. I think that those were just spectacular. I think the pacing was really good. All the stuff that the characters went through and the person that they became at the end was so different than who they started off as, and in the best possible way. I loved that. And okay, I don't know if maybe these aren't actually kind of hints to Stormlight and Mistborn, but there were some parts that I saw that I was like, I think that this is a reference to Mistborn. I think this is a reference to Stormlight. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you about those. I think it was a little bit early on in the book that they mentioned, so you're kind of learning about the magic system with the colors and the breath. And they had kind of mentioned that there were people who could do that with metals, but luckily that was like long forgotten. So like they were probably in there and then they went and moved on to like the Mistborn world, is my theory. And then the other one is that the lifeless that we learn about, there was kind of there might have been another type of lifeless, which I can't remember the name of these guys right now, but you know the really big blue guys in Mistborn with the big saggy skin that eventually they grow and then the skin rips and they die? I think that they're another type of lifeless, and maybe I misunderstood because perhaps that could just be foreshadowing for like the end of this book regarding the lifeless, but the way that I understood it was a bit more of a hint towards the big blue guys in Mistborn. And because again, they talked about how this was kind of like a lost, that the way to do this was like lost in history, similarly to the metals and how people had known how to do that before as well. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into it or if that was just intended to be foreshadowing for the end of the book, but either way, I was like, woo! And then for Stormlight, of course, we got my boy Hoyd. He's always there. As soon as they said a storyteller was gonna come in, I'm like, that's my boy, he's coming, I'm so excited. And of course, Hoyd was there. Hoyd is in all the books. He's like he's the secret main character of the Cosmere, I think. That's what I think, at least. And then of course we got Nightblood. We learned more about Nightblood, and honestly, I would not have figured out the Zeal connection at all if you lovely Brandon Sander fans had not told me about it when I was reading Stormlight Archive. I would not have put it together. You guys, those of you who figured it out, like, I applaud you. I never would have guessed that, to be honest, but knowing that connection made it even better for me reading the book. And I'm like, ooh, like I know this character, but like, how did he end up in the Stormlight world? And why does he not have Nightblood with him? I want to know that story. And I'm really excited because in almost a month, the Stormlight book comes out and it's about Szeth, and Szeth has the sword, and I'm just really excited about it. So yeah, I'm really excited. Please let me know what Brandon Sanderson book I'm supposed to be reading next in the order. That would be really helpful, please. So today we are going to be awarding Warbreaker a total of 5 stars. I was debating between 4.5 or 5 stars, but the more I think about this book and just like the whole Cosmere in general, it just makes me so happy. And I'm always surprised. I'm obsessed with the magic system. I loved every single character. The twist upon twist in this book were really well done. Of course, his writing style is absolutely fabulous. So now that I finished Warbreaker, please let me know which book in the Cosmere I'm supposed to be reading next. I'm not entirely sure, like, do I go with the rest of the Mistborn series now, not like as I've read the original, or is it time for Elantris? Like, I'm not really sure. Please let me know because I need help with this, please. Thank you. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is her young adult debut, so the first book that she ever released. I've only ever read her Throne of the Fallen, which was her adult debut book. And so I'm really interested to see like the differences between her newest work and her first work and how she's evolved as an author, and just kind of get stuck into this story. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't already, definitely hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you're a big Sander fan, definitely hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!